again, there was new names in some of the emails that I think investigators need to look at. In particular, I jumped on the name of a modeling agent who, in a similar fashion to Jean-Luc Brunel, who brought underage girls from overseas to Jeffrey Epstein for abuse. There was another man. What was interesting about this other individual is that he also apparently provided young models for Donald Trump's modeling agents.
Breaking right now, Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith have just been named in the explosive new Epstein documents, shattering their Hollywood facade and dragging their darkest secrets into the light. The leaked records, released amid political chaos from the House Oversight Committee, have stunned observers by including the Smiths among dozens of names connected to Jeffrey Epstein's sprawling web of influence. What began as a routine data release, emails, calendars, and travel logs, has now ignited a firestorm around one of Hollywood's most scrutinized couples. The files don't accuse them of wrongdoing, but the association alone is enough to send shockwaves through the entertainment industry.
Emails, it is quite clear that Jeffrey Epstein had a wide, almost incalculably wide circle of associates. People who were celebrities, people who were either in foreign governments or leaders of foreign governments, business tycoons, and the like.
In these pages, investigators found hints of meetings, names dropped in correspondence, and even dates that align eerily with the Smiths' own public timeline. The documents trace Epstein's social reach through film, politics, and celebrity circles, raising new questions about how far his network truly extended. Sources close to the committee say the Smiths' mention comes from a series of guest list emails and entertainment event records that overlapped with Epstein's later years when he continued courting influence among actors, producers, and cultural icons despite his criminal past. It's not proof of misconduct, but it's the kind of connection that makes Hollywood panic. We've seen this before. Powerful couples cultivating a public image of openness and enlightenment, while behind the scenes, their alliances tell another story.
Her, doesn't it? She probably wants to get out early. So I think that we have more digging to do. I think the DOJ transparency effort here is the right thing, but the reason it's on a Friday, Will, is I think there are no smoking guns. There's other places we have to look.
Well, Buck, you appropriately...
Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith have spent years presenting themselves as Hollywood's most self-aware duo, transparent, spiritual, emotionally evolved. Yet this new association with Epstein's circle pulls their carefully crafted narrative into dangerous territory. Epstein's world was built on power, leverage, and secrecy. The Smiths were supposed to represent truth. The collision of those two ideas is what's sending shockwaves across the internet tonight. For years, we've known Jeffrey Epstein kept close ties to celebrities who shaped pop culture. We've seen names like Woody Allen, Mick Jagger, and Naomi Campbell resurface through these documents. But the inclusion of the Smiths, a couple who built their reputation on family, authenticity, and public vulnerability, changes everything. According to insiders familiar with the release, one section of correspondence references a production dinner with Hollywood friends. Around the same period, Jada was filming her talk show, Red Table Talk, where she invited guests to confess their most private truths. The irony isn't lost on anyone following this story.
I was sickened. I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse.
This is where the timeline begins to twist. In 2023, Jada shocked audiences by admitting that she and Will had quietly separated back in 2016. That confession reframed everything the public thought they knew about their marriage. It explained years of speculation, awkward interviews, and the now infamous 2022 Oscars incident, when Will Smith stormed the stage to confront Chris Rock. The world watched a man unravel on live television. Now, with the Epstein leak hanging in the air, people are asking whether that outburst was really about a joke, or if it was a symptom of something much deeper. Behind the polished image, the Smiths' story has long been punctuated by whispered betrayals and unconventional arrangements. Former insiders like Brother Bilal have painted a picture of chaos behind their mansion doors. Alleged confrontations, secret affairs, and volatile emotions boiling beneath the surface. Bilal's claims, though unverified, struck a nerve because they fit too neatly into the image of a couple struggling to balance fame, freedom, and control. And now, with their names floating among Epstein's archives, that narrative takes on a darker resonance. If Epstein's circle represented the elite's most secret indulgences, what does it mean that the Smiths' names appear there at all? The public hasn't forgotten Jada's infamous entanglement confession in 2020 when she sat across from her husband and admitted to a relationship with August Alsina during their separation. What once seemed like the peak of transparency now feels like the opening act of something far larger. The Epstein connection brings a new level of scrutiny to their overlapping social circles. Charity galas, film premieres, private events, places where Hollywood's most guarded figures mingled freely. People can't help but wonder what conversations and introductions took place in those rooms. And then there's Will's recent controversy involving Spanish singer India Martinez.
Oh, we're black. I'm sorry. Who do you say put out the allegations? There's like so many rumors. Anything you want to say, we suing.
Just last week, Will Smith made headlines for an inappropriate moment at the Premier Lenestra Awards in Miami. On stage, he leaned in for a kiss that never quite landed, but the moment exploded across social media with outrage and mockery. Fans called him creepy, cringe, and out of touch. The irony of the timing is impossible to ignore. While his public image spiraled into yet another uncomfortable spectacle, behind the scenes, whispers about the upcoming Epstein leak were beginning to circulate among media insiders. What looked like a minor publicity blunder may have been the beginning of a far larger storm. Insiders have long said Will's private boundaries blurred years ago, around the same time his marriage began to fracture. Stories of open arrangements and experimental lifestyles have followed the Smiths for over a decade, but the Epstein connection drags those old whispers out of the realm of gossip and into something far heavier.
It was the woman that everybody wanted, and Will needed that validation to have that type.
When the documents dropped, certain correspondences reportedly referenced high-profile Hollywood couples attending exclusive private salons hosted through mutual acquaintances. Investigators have not confirmed the guest lists, but the language, coded, polished, and transactional, has fans connecting dots all across the internet. We can't forget the shadow of Dwayne Martin, either. That rumor, pushed back fiercely by both Smiths, once claimed that Will had been caught in a compromising situation with the actor. Brother Bilal even suggested that legal action was being prepared to silence him after his explosive interviews. For most of the past year, those stories were dismissed as clickbait, but in the context of this new leak, old scandals suddenly feel relevant again. The threads of secrecy, control, and humiliation seem to tie together. The assistant's accusations, the entanglement, the slap, the onstage flirtations, one long-running pattern of boundary-pushing behavior that always seemed to stop just short of public collapse.
I think these things like Epstein, and there's probably a bunch of other similar operations that are being run, they provide you with like a really good time, or maybe you're a high-profile, extremely wealthy individual, and it's hard for you to get hosed. And some guy tells you, hey, we've got everything covered. You know, you come to my island, nothing, what happens on the island stays on the island.
What's striking now is how this new scandal overlaps with the exact period when Epstein's network was still alive and active. From 2014 to 2019, his records show constant contact with Hollywood producers, political strategists, and even motivational speakers. That's the same window in which Will Smith was rebuilding his career after a string of box office disappointments, and Jada Pinkett Smith was reinventing herself as a confessional media figure. Could their names have surfaced because of charity work, a business introduction, or something more personal? No one is giving answers yet, and the silence feels deafening. The energy online is feral. Comment sections are flooded with speculation that this leak could expose connections capable of rewriting how we view entire eras of celebrity culture. The Smiths, once seen as spiritual pioneers of modern love, are now being pulled into a conversation about power, secrecy, and corruption. Even their children, Jaden Smith and Willow Smith, who have built their own brands of edgy transparency, are being drawn into the backlash. Hollywood publicists are scrambling, studios are going quiet, and no one wants to say aloud what everyone is thinking. If these documents are just the beginning, what other names and nights are waiting to surface, threatening to bury the Smiths forever?
See, the thing is, the average American probably can tell the difference, but there are sub-average individuals that all they want to know is you're on the list, and they hear you're on the list, and they might try. And that is a fact.
And the fallout has been instant. Within hours of the leak, social media erupted into a feeding frenzy, dissecting every second of Will Smith's performance with India Martinez as if it were a coded confession. Clips of that almost kiss have been replayed frame by frame, fans circling gestures, glances, even hand placements, while conspiracy accounts stitched the moment side by side with the Epstein timeline. The question echoing through the comments is brutal. Was this flirtatious act just another awkward moment from a man craving validation, or part of a pattern that's finally catching up to him? Several entertainment insiders claim the public reaction is masking a much deeper fear inside Hollywood, that the documents might expose a history of behavior long protected by fame and silence. We can see the storm forming in real time. Hashtags linking Will Smith and Epstein trended overnight, with anonymous industry sources suggesting that what looks like innocent stage chemistry could hint at something far more orchestrated. One source close to a Miami production team allegedly told a gossip outlet that the energy around Will's entourage lately feels nervous, like they know more news is coming. Whether that's paranoia or insider knowledge, it's fueling the blaze. And the Smiths' silence, no statements, no clarifications, has only poured gasoline on the speculation.
The name Brother Bilal may not be a name you heard of, but if you're Will Smith, it's the name of your former friend of nearly 40 years.
As these theories gain traction, the more unverified stories from the Smiths' past have begun resurfacing. Brother Bilal's interview, once dismissed as a fringe outburst, is being clipped, re-edited, and shared again with captions like, "Did he warn us?" He claimed that behind their picture-perfect image was a cycle of volatility and emotional chaos, including a shocking story of a violent confrontation after Jada's alleged involvement with Mark Anthony. Though no evidence has surfaced, the tone of his account, paired with Jada's later confessions about entanglements, paints a disturbing pattern. Now, with the Epstein network back under scrutiny, commentators are drawing lines between Bilal's claims and the culture of protection Epstein's associates once enjoyed, where power, privacy, and reputation shielded the elite from consequences. The Smiths' 7-year separation revelation adds another layer to this puzzle. For years, they insisted their marriage was solid, a symbol of partnership beyond convention. But insiders now claim that what Jada called a spiritual bond may have been a calculated front, a business arrangement designed to preserve the family empire while each pursued separate lives. When Jada admitted they'd quietly split back in 2016, the timeline aligned almost perfectly with the years Epstein's circle was still active in celebrity society. Some see that as coincidence. Others see it as the kind of Hollywood choreography that hides 1,000 private truths.
Will was bent over on the couch and Dwayne was standing up. Like murder. It was murder in there.
And then there's the Dwayne Martin connection. Once just a quirky friendship, it's now being revisited under a microscope. The $1.4 million loan that reportedly saved Martin from legal ruin is suddenly being reinterpreted online, not as generosity, but as leverage. Brother Bilal alleged he once walked in on Will Smith and Dwayne Martin in a compromising encounter, a claim Jada fiercely denied on air. Still, fans can't stop analyzing the coincidences. The loan, the secrecy, the quiet fallout. Could that generosity have been part of a deeper bond, or something the Smiths wanted buried long before these documents emerged? Meanwhile, the August Alsina entanglement that once made headlines for its raw honesty has taken on new meaning in the shadow of these leaks. What once seemed like open communication now looks, to some, like an attempt to control the narrative before something worse surfaced. Online sleuths are even comparing the tone of Jada's Red Table Talk episodes to the careful language found in Epstein's own correspondences, both speaking in riddles about healing, freedom, and trust. It's a stretch maybe, but that's how conspiracy culture works. Every word becomes a clue. And now the congressional movement pushing for the release of the remaining Epstein files has intensified all the speculation, turning whispers into wildfire.
it's layers upon layers. It's those Russian nesting dolls, and you open it, and there's another one in there, and you open, there's another one in there.
Corruptions at all time, bro. The Epstein files.
I heard there's no files. I heard it's a hoax. And then all of a sudden, he's going to release the files. Well, I thought there was no files.
Man.
He wants an investigation now.
If more documents are released, and insiders say hundreds of pages remain sealed, we may finally learn just how vast Jeffrey Epstein's Hollywood network truly was. Members of the House Oversight Committee are already hinting that additional high-profile names appear in the redacted sections. Could the Smiths be among them? No one can say for certain, but the fact that their name surfaced at all has already caused significant damage. Studios are reportedly reviewing contracts, streaming platforms are slowing promotional pushes, and publicists are quietly rehearsing crisis statements behind closed doors. For those who have followed Will Smith's fall from grace since the Oscars slap, this feels like the next act in an unrelenting tragedy. The moment he struck Chris Rock was once viewed as spontaneous, emotional, even human. Now, it's being reframed as evidence of a man under unbearable pressure, living a double life that was inching toward collapse. Jada Pinkett Smith once called it the holy slap, insisting it saved their marriage. But with these new leaks swirling, many are questioning whether it was less an act of salvation and more an explosion. What else, they wonder, was he trying to silence that night? The internet never forgets, and nothing fuels curiosity like a mystery built on fame, secrecy, and scandal. Every time Will posts, the comments turn into an archive of accusations. Even their children, once celebrated as Hollywood royalty, are being dragged into the conversation, accused of knowing far more than they've ever admitted. In the court of public opinion, perception becomes reality, and the Smiths' reality looks shakier than ever.
I think because this is a big problem. I mean, related back to what we were talking about earlier with Hollywood too, is that I think a lot of these don't respect the public. They don't respect our intelligence. You know, like I think the average American is smart enough to know the difference between somebody that was just in there or somebody that testified than somebody that was banging.
As journalists and bloggers dig deeper, whispers from the entertainment underground are growing louder. Some allege that the Smiths' long-standing ties to major production houses may overlap with donors once connected to Epstein's philanthropic fronts. Others claim a well-known producer, previously questioned by investigators, helped broker introductions years ago, introductions that many now regret. None of it has been proven, but in a story like this, intrigue often arrives long before evidence. Now, the world waits. Lawmakers are demanding a full release of the Epstein records, tabloids are preparing fresh exclusives, and insiders say the next data dump could include previously sealed communications between unnamed Hollywood figures and Epstein's estate. If that's true, this may only be the prelude to something far larger. Critics believe we've barely scratched the surface, that what comes next could redraw the entire map of celebrity power. What fascinates observers most is not just who the Smiths may have known, but why those connections existed in the first place. Tracing Will Smith's rise from 90s television prodigy to global box office titan raises unsettling questions. What deals, favors, or allegiances shaped his ascent? Hollywood is built on invisible handshakes, and Epstein's web thrived on precisely that form of currency. Insiders now suggest this might explain the whispers of jealousy, breakdowns, and emotional turmoil that have shadowed Will's private life, the same whispers that fueled talk of self-destructive thoughts after the Mark Anthony affair rumors. Behind the charisma and polished charm may have been a man cornered by his own ambition, pulled into an elite ecosystem that rewarded loyalty with silence and punished defiance with exposure.
So they came to get their money, and I didn't have it, so they took everything.
We can't overlook the financial layer either. Some entertainment financiers claim there were moments when Will Smith's production ventures faced quiet cash flow crises that mysteriously resolved overnight. The gossip machine now wonders whether those sudden rescues mirror Jeffrey Epstein's notorious pattern of bailing out high-profile associates to secure lifelong debts of gratitude. There is no confirmed evidence of financial transactions between them, but the timing of certain turnarounds, especially around stalled projects and personal scandals, feels a little too neat to dismiss. In the world Epstein cultivated, generosity was leverage, and leverage was control. Some now believe that same playbook may have seeped into the Smiths' orbit, disguised as partnership or investment. If these theories hold any truth, the Smiths might not simply be victims of leaks. They may have been architects of their own hidden empire. The idea suggests a double life, powered by ambition, sustained by powerful backers who knew exactly how to keep their stars loyal. The charm, the mentorship image, the spiritual speeches about growth, all could have been armor shielding a deeper entanglement with forces that made them untouchable for years. And if that is even partially true, it raises a chilling question. What happens when the final layer of that protection begins to peel away? Here's the part no one can shake. If this leak alone was enough to shake the Smiths' carefully curated image to its core, what happens when the rest of those sealed names finally come out? Could their empire survive another revelation? Or will this be the scandal that finally topples one of Hollywood's most unbreakable brands? Let us know what you think in the comments below, because one thing is certain, the story of Will and Jada Smith is far from over, and the next twist could change everything. Until then, stay watching, stay curious, and brace yourself, because the truth always finds its way to the surface.